How y'all doing tonight? Good, all right. This is kind of surreal for me. I graduated from high school here 10 years ago. Trying to remember the last time I was on this stage, and truthfully, I think it was right when Riverwood had started doing their morning announcements live on TV, and me and my prankster friend Leslie convinced them to let us guest host. And they agreed, but then when we got on the air, we pretended we couldn't read. But anyway, I'm not here to tell stupid stories, although I could. But I'm here to play some music, but this is a TED Talk, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about music. And I wanted to point out a few things I've noticed recently. I often invite friends over and say, why don't we have a listening party, put on a record, put our phones up, and just listen to music. And most of the time, the response I get is, well, what are we going to do while the record's on? And it started to occur to me that to a lot of people, listening to music, because there isn't a visual component, isn't the activity anymore. And I'll talk further with these people, and I kind of realized that for a lot of people, listening to music is really only a device people use so they're not bored on the way somewhere, a way to be distracted from being alone with themselves. And this is kind of sad to me, because to me, music and paying attention to music has been the most enriching thing in my life. And even if you don't play music, I think it can enrich yours too. So I wanted to express to you how special it is to me, why it is that way, and how it can hopefully enrich your life too. I think the first thing music brought to my life was beauty. There's a great drummer named Art Blakey who said, music washes away the dust of everyday life. And I've always felt like once I got into music, I felt that music had elevated my life somewhere beyond the ordinary. And there was a great philosopher, I'm forgetting his name, but he said, and I'm paraphrasing, that music is basically proof that life is not a mistake. And I kind of agree. But before I begin, I want to play something that shows you the beauty music brings to me. Before I begin, how many of you like jazz? I can't see anything, so yell if you do. Really? Seriously? Okay. But often when I say that, I don't get much response. I've realized that a lot of people don't like jazz or they say they don't like jazz because they associate it with something else, like the dentist office or their grandparents, but they haven't seen it in a cool environment. So I always try to encourage people not to think of it as jazz, but to just think of it as music. There's the great Duke Ellington said that there are only two kinds of music, good and bad. So when I play, if you don't like jazz, just decide if it's good or bad. Don't think you don't like it because it's jazz or you like it because it is jazz. To me, what is called jazz music is really special, because what it really is a new feeling being washed over your body every second. The music changes often, and I think that's what's really special in it. So I thought I'd begin and play a piece by, to me, one of the most beautiful sounding pianists ever, the great Errol Garner. This is called Gaslight. And so for one, music brought beauty to my life. And then for two, music has brought so many good people in my life. Not to mention the people I meet from being in school or being at gigs and people that people want to introduce me to. It's introduced me to a lot of mentors who have taught me so much, not just about music, but they've taught me that while music can elevate life above the ordinary, music really is life. Because really everything they've taught me about music is really about life, and vice versa. I've been really lucky to meet and learn from some of the greatest jazz musicians and writers of all time, and they've all taught me different things that have helped my music and my life. For example, the great Les McCann taught me about living good and meaningfully. When we first met, he asked me, how often do you practice? And I said, about 6 or 7 hours a day. And he said, practice less. And I was like, what? You're not expecting your favorite piano player to tell you to practice less. And I said, why? And he says, you need to go out and live. You need to be out doing things that make you want to come back to the piano and have something to sing about. That was a mind-blowing thing. Then, the great pianist, Ramsey Lewis, gave me the confidence to be me. I was nervous before a gig once, and I asked him if he ever gets nervous. And he said that, no, I only knew that I could do what I could do the best that I could do it. So I did it, you know? Okay. And that worked. The great Ahmad Jamal, one time I emailed him when I was having issues with a girlfriend. And he wrote me back and he said, you need to decide if she's a muse or a distraction. And we broke up the next day. But then it got me thinking, what other kind of distractions are there in my life? And that started a whole new thing. The great pianist Don Friedman taught me about fulfillment. He was 80-something when he died, and I'd go visit him every Thursday about 2 in the afternoon. I'd say, Don, what do you want to do? He'd say, let's go get a stack of pancakes. So I realized that for this guy, doing what you love, or for him, doing exactly what he loved has brought him fulfillment. He wasn't the richest man on the planet, but he was by far the happiest person I've ever met, and that made a big impression on me. Then the great writer, Nat Hentoff, really impressed on me how dedicated and how committed you have to be to really do this. He would tell me about Charles Mingus, the great bass player, who was dying from ALS. He couldn't even move his hands, but he would call Nat late at night and sing to him the melodies that he had just written. And he was so dedicated. He was doing that until weeks before he passed away. And to me, I think these mentor relationships have really, been huge experiences in my life, and I think I could sum all that up with a little music. Basically, Les McCann, who y'all should all check out. If you like any jam band music, you'll be a fan. But Les lives in LA, and I was in New York at the time, and I'd call him after all my gigs, which was about 2 a.m. my time, 11 p.m. his time, and then we'd sit down on the phone, I'd put the phone on speaker, play piano, and we'd write some songs together. So one of them we decided to call the theme, and I'll play that for y'all now. Hope you enjoy, and you can tap your feet or clap your hands, and you can get into it if you want. Jazz is feeling music. And the third thing that music has really brought to my life is it has helped me find myself. I think that once you find that initial beauty that music can bring to your life, you are constantly seeking out more of it. You kind of crave it. And for me, that mixed with the lessons that I learned from my mentors, and all the listening you do, it kind of comes together in this little package that kind of tells you, after a long time of searching and listening to yourself, what you really want to play and what you don't want to play, and what you like to listen to, why you don't like to listen to what you don't like to listen to, why you like to listen to what you like to listen to. It's a whole thing. But for me, I was living in New York for 10 years. After I went to high school here, I moved up there, and that advice about muse or distraction started getting, I started thinking about that. So I was thinking on that for a long time, and I started to realize that the excitement in New York was a distraction from how I really just wanted to come back to Atlanta. So once I finally admitted that to myself, and thankfully I had a mentor tell me that idea in the first place, I said to myself, I think I want to move back. And I think that's where I'll close tonight, because once I admitted that to myself, I sat down at the piano, and the next song I'll play came out. And so I think music's really taught me to be true to myself. And I know that I'm reading a lot of articles about country music stations around the country cutting off their songs at the 2-minute mark because they don't think their listeners have that attention span anymore. Or times when I'll say to a friend, man, you gotta listen to this song. The best part comes at 12 minutes and 30 seconds, and they'll say, well, just fast forward. I say, no, but the reason it's so good is because you built it up to that 12-minute point. So I know that people are losing it, some people are losing a little attention span, and I just want to encourage everyone to listen to music and to pay attention to it and let it be the activity, even though there's not always a visual component to it, because the deeper in it you get, the more beautiful it becomes and the more you discover, and it's just an endless treasure trove of material. So I thought I'd close with a song I wrote called Coming Home to You, that was brought on by me admitting to myself that I needed to come back to Atlanta. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy this song. Thank y'all.